Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where OP's girlfriend is not happy about him sleeping in. Am I the jerk for sleeping in on my girlfriend's birthday? I, 25 male, have been dating my girlfriend, who's 22, for about 2 months, and she got extremely upset with me after sleeping in on her birthday. We agreed to have her birthday at my house, inviting all of her young college friends that I don't really trust yet, and even having her DJ friend come, despite noise concerns. I agreed to it because I wanted her party to be special and she had no other option. I spent 9 hours straight cleaning my house top to bottom in preparation, and I even made some brownies for the party. Last week I had to fly out for 5 days on a business trip. They ended up scheduling it on top of her birthday after I agreed to host it. I fought to rework the entire project schedule and got multiple other people to change plans just so I could be back in time for the day of her birthday and then the party the next day. This trip turned out to be one of the most mentally taxing projects of my career. Both flights in and out were red eyes, and the work required me to do everything late at night, as late as 6 a.m. on a few nights. I worked 62 hours and got an average of 4 hours of sleep per night in a 5-day span. One night I only got 1 hour of sleep before working 12 hours. I stayed in sketchy hotels, got an eye infection, and even ran into my bipolar ex that emotionally ruined me. Needless to say, I was drained, mentally and physically. I took the day off after I got back so that we could hang out on her actual birthday. She spent the entire week with her mom shopping and hanging out. We never agreed on a specific time or even plan on what we were doing. I woke up early to a work call to fix one last thing from the project, said good morning to my girlfriend, and we talked about getting coffee at some point. My body just couldn't physically stay awake anymore, and I ended up falling asleep for 3 more hours. Finally, I get up, get her some flowers, and head to her place to take her for her favorite lunch, see a movie she wanted, and get her favorite cake. When I got there, she was extremely upset and crying really hard because I slept so long. When I tried to explain, she dismissed my sleep deprivation because she doesn't get good sleep in general and said, "Welcome to my life." She didn't thank me for the flowers, lunch, movie, or cake. I felt like I've been giving 110% to everyone and everything, and yet I'm still getting yelled at. It brought back feelings of never being good enough and walking on eggshells that my ex gave me. She even told me later that negative reinforcement works better. This is a very obvious case of break up ASAP. You don't need this in your life. If she is like this after 2 months, she will make your life a nightmare. Find a nice, well-adjusted girl. Not the jerk. A good partner would be empathetic. She seems to be very selfish. Have a conversation with her about how you feel and your boundaries. And if she doesn't respond with compromise, then it's time to leave the relationship, as that's not a good sign for a long-term relationship or marriage. Not the jerk. Putting real life before a birthday is normal adulting. It's pretty narcissistic to turn a birthday into a day that revolves entirely around the person having it. Sounds like she made a week out of it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please share your thoughts. The things some people put up with for a little bit of action. Am I the jerk for agreeing with what my sister accused our mom of? When my sister and I were about 10, me, and 12, her, our mom went back to work. She met this guy named Mark, and the two of them became very close. After a couple of years, we started to question if mom was having an affair. Our dad suspected that she might be. It was a big conflict in our parents' marriage. Maybe it wasn't a full-blown affair, but even dad suggested if it wasn't a physical affair, it was an emotional one, and I tend to agree. Mom and Mark would get very flirty with each other, and she invited him to everything as a family friend. My dad and Mark did not get along, and Mark used to tease Dad that he was so uptight and possessive to be so bothered by harmless flirting. Mom would fight to have Mark included in stuff because Dad didn't want him around. Our parents' marriage was never the same. They even separated for a while, but they got back together. When I was 19, my dad passed from a brain aneurysm. Mark was at the house right after it happened, and Mom even had him sit with us during the funeral. She told us he was her best friend, despite the fact her other best friend, someone we all loved, was not even asked to sit with us. This was my mom's lifelong friend, Abby. Abby claimed that Mom saw Mark as a brother. 2 years later, Mom announced that she and Mark were a couple. It didn't come as a surprise, but my sister and I didn't really like or truly support the relationship. We said nothing, but Mom picked up on it. She noticed it more apparently when they got married 18 months later. Now they've been married for almost 3 years, and the whole thing became heated debate because my sister is getting married and really hasn't included mom in anything wedding related and has made it very clear when asked that Mark has no role in her wedding at all. This led mom to confront my sister about the change in relationship, and my sister told her she just sees her relationship with Mark as proof that they were never just friends with a sibling bond. She said people don't date people they have a close sibling relationship with. I'm guessing you never been to Alabama. My sister told her she didn't believe that they never had an affair, and she basically had disrespected Dad by getting with Mark. She said moving on with anyone else would have been different, but Mark was a slap in the face to our dad. My mom came to me after her fight with her sister and told me my sister had made accusations against her and Mark, and especially her, and she wanted to know if I thought the same thing of her. I said yes. I told her I wasn't entirely convinced she and Mark had a physical affair, but I refused to believe it was not an emotional one, and it did change how I saw her and did make me feel not great about her marriage and current relationship with Mark. My mom said it was an awful thing to accuse her of, and how could both of us have such a low opinion of her when she was a great wife to Dad and a good mom to us? She told me she hated that I supported my sister's accusations when the two of us used to be so close. Am I the jerk? She's in the wrong. Why would you marry someone you see as a brother? She was probably also having a physical relationship with Mark. I'd put money on it because she's so defensive. She couldn't have been so oblivious to how it looked to everyone else all those years to you and your sister. She's going to get a rude awakening when you and your sister stop talking to her. Not the jerk. I'm sorry your mother acted like that for most of your lives. Good luck to you and your sister. Not the jerk. You were honest and told your mom the truth. Why would you lie? Your mom and dad had many fights about this very thing, which threw your life in turmoil. The worst thing about it is the man wasn't a faceless person. She brought him around your whole life, and now she's married to him. There are bound to be bad feelings because it looks like your dad was right. Why would you lie to make your mom feel better when she didn't give you kids the same consideration? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their mom? Please let us know. Can I just say, I really don't like your mom. At least Mark does. Am I the jerk for not getting my stepdaughter a present? I, 40 female, married my ex-husband James, who's 43, 3 years ago. He had a daughter, Annabelle, who's 13, from a previous relationship. For background, Annabelle has next to no contact with her biological mother. She left when Annabelle was 2, and apart from the occasional birthday card, there's no contact there. I've known Annabelle since she was 9, and we had a great relationship, especially in the absence of a maternal figure in her life. I never had kids of my own and never intended to, but was surprised that I was fine with being in a relationship with someone who had a kid. James, Annabelle, and I had lived together for 4 years in what you could consider the normal nuclear family. However, my relationship with James just got more and more strained. We were constantly arguing and bickering about really pointless things, and the atmosphere in the house was sour. Annabelle could tell, and she became more withdrawn. Eventually, I told James I was leaving because I wasn't happy in the house or the relationship. He was livid and going crazy, saying that he didn't want to see me again. I left and went to live with my sister until I found somewhere of my own. This happened about 3 months ago, and I haven't had any contact with James since then, other than to collect some things from the house. I asked how Annabelle was, and he said she was fine, but didn't really expand upon that. However, last week I received an angry call from James, saying how selfish and immature I had been for not getting Annabelle a birthday present. I knew it was her birthday, but decided not to and haven't tried to maintain a relationship with her because of the tension with James. James said how upset she was and that he couldn't believe I put relationship issues over her, who I knew didn't have a mother. I told him he was being ridiculous and that if he wanted to cut me out of his life completely, that includes his daughter. He said I was a jerk and a small gift or a card would have meant the world to Annabelle before hanging up the phone. I sent Annabelle a happy birthday text the day after her birthday as the call was late, but she hasn't responded. Am I the jerk? This wasn't a casual breakup. This was fire and brimstone. You've been fully punted out of the nuclear family and essentially been no contact. Between you and James, not the jerk. Between you and Annabelle, no jerks here. She's just an unfortunate passenger in this and is no doubt experiencing a lot of bad from this hostile breakup. You're not punishing her here. You were removed from the family. How or if you go forward with Annabelle should be between you and her. James has made his views clear on his interactions with you, so he gets no say. While Annabelle is not at fault here, her dad seems to be weaponizing this breakup for his own convenience. That's not on you, OP. Do not entertain his baloney. There's no winning here. If you had sent her a gift or contacted the birthday girl, your ex might have taken it as an attempt to contact and renew his relationship with you. It's understandable you would cease contact with them both, although it sucks for her. Not the jerk. I think you both could have handled it better, but still, not the jerk. It seems like a tough situation for both you and Annabelle. If you can text her privately, such as not being screened by James, maybe let her know that you weren't sure whether she would still want to hear from you given the situation, and apologize for making the wrong choice. Then let her decide if she'd like to stay in touch. You're the jerk. 4 years in a normal nuclear family? That's an enormous, sweeping amount of time for a young person who probably does see you as a maternal figure. I'm not saying you need to become a replacement mother even following your split, but James is right. A small gift or even a call is an acknowledgement of those 4 years and the fact that this is a whole human who had a positive and meaningful relationship with you, independent of your relationship with James. It probably would have meant the world to her. Unfortunately, there's a level of complexity you kind of signed up for when you started a relationship with the person who had a kid who effectively lost a parent. You might not have realized this at the time, or even now, but you did. And a small act of kindness and being thoughtful to a kid isn't a huge inconvenience to you. There's no issue with you leaving your husband, but you had also left his 13-year-old daughter that you'd been in a mother-like relationship with for several years. Annabelle had already been abandoned by one mother when you met her. You should have done better. Not just with a birthday present, but before you left James and since then. You're the jerk. Well, what do you think? Is OB the jerk for not saying happy birthday to Annabelle or not? Please share your thoughts. My heart goes out to that kid. I just wish you would have sent her a text or something. Am I the jerk for being relieved when I found out my friend was not adopting a kid? Randy, 41 male, and I, 35 male, have been friends since we took college courses together, and later found out that we had lived in the same city but had never met before that. We've been through a lot as friends, and we've always had each other's backs. After moving back to our hometown, we started a social group of about 15. Then it grew and grew until we could fill an entire section of a bar or a restaurant. Slowly but surely, people ended up not attending the outings as often when they started having kids. Understandable. I loved our outings, and I started drinking socially, never getting drunk. As far as I know, Randy was also child-free, and whenever parenthood came ringing for the others, he would say, "Another one bites the dust." I'd reply, "Maybe we'll see them in 5 years." 2 months ago, I saw a post on Randy's Facebook saying he was adopting a 1.5-year-old. It threw me for a loop because he had never talked about wanting to be a father or a burning desire. I was in a tailspin thinking, oh no, another one, as my social circle has narrowed as they've had kids. 1 month goes by and I see another post from Randy. He's a proud dad. Of a dog. I was so relieved. I felt like I could howl at the moon because I wouldn't lose another one of my favorite people to the parenthood portal. On to the conflict. At another one of our hangouts, Randy had shown his dog's picture to a bunch of oohs and ahs and stories relating to their dog's odd quirks. I said, my heart leapt when I realized he adopted a dog and not a kid. I was afraid I wasn't going to see him for at least 5 years. We laughed, but Randy was a bit quiet. We finished our food and left. As we walked to our cars, Randy later told me that I was a jerk for being relieved that he's a dog dad rather than a human dad, and why was I so concerned about it? I told him that as I go on in life, it's hard to find non-parents/child-free friends, and I'm all for people doing what they want to do in life. Randy asked, why does that matter? I said I would have had to get used to a new reality with him as a dad if he decided to have a kid, and he knows exactly what that means. He's seen what happens to our parent friends that we don't see unless it's an event for their kid. Some of our mutuals are on my side, saying I wasn't exactly wrong, but I didn't have to say it like that. Others are on his side, saying that I was wrong for saying I was relieved he was getting a dog rather than a kid. So, am I the jerk for being relieved my friend didn't adopt a kid? Have you considered that Randy's life may not be about his utility to you, and that perhaps he's a dog dad because there's a reason he can't be a human dad, and that reason is painful to him, no matter how it may be beneficial to you? This seems like no jerks to me. Randy was joking about the exact same things before. OP just applied that shared joke to him as well. I don't think it was so horrendous on OP's part. I can see why the comment made Randy upset, but that doesn't by itself make it a jerk thing to say. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills reading this comment section. Randy made jokes for years whenever their other friends had kids, Yet OP used the same joke they always used about everyone else, and now he's the jerk for it? I don't get it. It really just seems like Randy was cool making jokes about other people, but not about himself. Not the jerk for feeling relieved for your own reasons, but you're the jerk for saying it like that. Randy may want to be a father to a human kid. Perhaps he can't have biological kids, hasn't met the right person to share that experience with, or there may be one of many other things going on. It sounds like your comment struck a chord with Randy. Announcing your relief publicly made it about you, and may mean that Randy won't share what that's actually about with you. But Randy has been making the same jokes about other people since forever. Like literally the same joke. So how come it's suddenly wrong when it comes to Randy? OP probably thought that they have an inside joke going on between them. This isn't about OP's self-centeredness of him thinking that Randy and him had a child-free pact. So he did a shared joke with a child-free friend. How come Randy is losing his marbles over it? Why is he getting upset if he's child-free? OP, I think you're not the jerk, but the world doesn't revolve around you either. Not the jerk for thinking it, but you are the jerk for making sure he knew about it. Weird reasons for caring. Your friendship isn't more important than any desires to have a kid that you don't know about. This was a prime opportunity to keep your mouth shut, and you missed it. You're the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Randy? Please let us know. Oh, I just love making jokes about all of my friends and then flipping out when one of them makes the same joke with me. Am I the jerk for not showing my dad's fiance how to empty the robot vacuum's dustpan? I'm 24, male. My dad, his fiance, and her son are all going out of town this weekend for a cruise and will be back the following weekend. She, my dad's fiance, has anxiety about being away for a week and has asked me to do many various tasks around the house, which I have agreed to do, including making sure my immature brother, who's 27, stays out of trouble. For context, she does a lot around the house and she doesn't work, and I have a job where I only get one day off each week. But whenever I am home, I do the chores assigned to me, along with anything else that's asked of me. Today is my day off, and I'm on the couch with my earbuds in. She waved at me, and I took both earbuds out, and I gave her my full attention. She told me that my dad will be home in 10 minutes and needs help moving furniture, then asked me to show her how to empty the vacuum dustpan. I said, "Oh, that's easy. You just lift up the hatch on top and pull out the dustpan." I'm sitting in a spot where I can see it charging, and she's 5 feet from it. So I expect her to go over and try, but instead she just stood there and said, "Can you show me?" I again replied, "It's really simple. You just lift the top hatch." And she again said, "OP, come show me how to do it." I replied, "You literally only lift the hatch on top of it. You can't mess it up." And she stood there for 5 seconds staring at me, so I stood up from the couch and she walked away to the upstairs bedroom. I decided to just go do it myself and I emptied it. Then I sat back down and waited for my dad to get home. Fast forward 10 minutes until after we finished moving the patio furniture, and I went to the office to watch YouTube or something. My dad came into the room and let me know that he thinks she unplugged the internet, and then he walks to the kitchen and I hear her talking about the internet modem power cord. I walk in there and ask her why she unplugged the internet, and she says, "Because I'm a jerk." When I stood there confused, she proceeded to explain how she feels like she's invisible and that she's not respected, how people respect my dad, and how she asked me 3 times to show her how to empty the D-bot, and all I did was sit there and be sarcastic. When I tried to explain that the reason I didn't get up to show her was that she was right next to it, and that's one of the most basic tasks ever, she got 2 feet from my face, yelling, basically repeating her interpretation of the events and how she is treated like she doesn't exist. I asked her to please let me finish, which she then got in my face again and continued yelling at me. I was getting really aggravated and raised my voice at her to say, "I'm going out to the porch. I'm not gonna let this escalate and let you yell at me." I then went out to the porch and sat there on my phone while she and my dad went at it. My dad thinks I didn't do anything wrong. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You're not responsible for her feelings and interpretation of events. It sounds like she really needs this vacation and some stress management skills. Not the jerk. Emptying that vacuum is one step above how do I open the trash can lid. If she can't empty that vacuum with your instructions, then she probably shouldn't be trusted to drive. For those who don't know, the whole top just hinges on like a trash can lid, and the dustpan literally has a pull handle on it. You literally have to do a more complex task to brush your teeth than empty that vacuum. Not the jerk, she's clearly stupid. Not the jerk, confirmed by your dad. She sounds pretty terrible to be around. I hope you have an exit strategy in place. You're the jerk, and your brother isn't the only one who's immature. You do realize you're old enough to get the boot, right? Who do you think your dad will pick if she gets tired of you being sarcastic and talking down to her? Her? Or the grown son who he's still supporting by letting you live in his home? Am I the jerk for refusing to let my 70-year-old mother ride with me when we were going to the same place? My mother, Barb, who's 70, and I have a challenging relationship. I love her, but I struggle with her. She consumes a lot of news that I disagree with, all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty low contact with her, and I've even gone through periods of no contact with her because of her gaslighting and rewriting history. My son, who's 16, and I, 43 female, were supposed to go and visit my Aunt Cindy, who's 55 this weekend, about 6 hours away. She was diagnosed last month with stage 4 bone and lung cancer, and it's really taken a toll on our family. My mom likes to visit Cindy as well. However, Barb has a habit of relying on others for rides, which often results in prolonged stays at Cindy's house. 3 weeks ago, during a drive with Barb, I asked her to share driving duties for an hour so I could rest. To my surprise, she refused, citing sudden fatigue and refusing to let my son drive. This left me frustrated and exhausted as I had to drive the entire way without a break. Now, Barb and I each separately planned on going up to visit Cindy and the boys. When Barb found out that I was going up the same day, she said, "Oh, that's great. Can I ride with you?" I said no. I think it's best if you take your own car as we planned and I take my car. That way, we will both have our cars and you can leave whenever you need to. She didn't like that answer and pressed me for more. I told her that she didn't help with the driving last time and she wouldn't let my son drive either. She should take her car as planned. She was very angry with me, asked why I hated her so much, and finally yelled that she was sorry that I had such a jerk for a mother. It was a weird conversation, but I felt proud that I had been true to my boundaries. That night, Cindy called me. She sounded so weak and sick and told me she was shocked that I said no to my mom. I apologized for her having any stress of this to deal with and that I didn't owe my mom a ride. She was going to drive up on her own and she still can. Cindy said that because of the stress I had caused, that I shouldn't visit her. I was devastated. Being stage 4, she doesn't have long, and this trip was planned back before we even knew about it. Barb said I was acting hateful and that I should post this on Reddit so I would know just how horrible I was being. I said she should stop involving Cindy in our arguments and she should stop being a freeloader. Aunt Cindy called me later screaming at me that I'm horrible. What kind of person wouldn't give a ride to their own mother? That I'm selfish, manipulative, and mean, and that my deceased grandmother would be so disappointed in me. I'm crushed. I feel like I'm allowed to not have to drive someone that I don't want to, especially if that person has previously been a terrible passenger. They're perfectly able to drive themselves and their car is working fine. So Reddit, let me have it. Am I the worst daughter ever, or was it okay to say no? Not the jerk. As you said, she could have driven herself or agreed to any other arrangement that made the drive more doable. Selfish, manipulative, and mean definitely apply to someone in this story, but not you. It's not hard to see that your mom told Cindy a twisted version of events, getting her needlessly upset and causing harm to her and you. If anything, this confirms your decision to go low contact or no contact with your mom. So Barb, if you're reading this, this is all on you. You did this to your daughter and your sister because you refused to take the wheel, instead turning a minor disagreement into something hateful and painful, causing stress and upset to someone who's not in good shape right now, and to paint yourself as the victim. You're a jerk. Not the jerk. I'm so glad you stuck to your boundaries here. Spending 12 hours in a car with someone is hard enough, let alone someone as frustrating as your mother. I can understand why Barb would want a carpool, as that is a long drive. However, if she isn't going to help drive or let your son drive, then it's perfectly reasonable to ask that she make her own way there. It really is horrible to hear how she dragged Cindy into this, and it sounds like Barb has twisted the story. Take care of yourself. Karen uses me for food and housing. I've had enough. When I was in high school, I was friends with a popular girl, Madison. I am not a nice guy, and we were honestly friends. She was out of my league, and I never had any thoughts about a relationship with her. We remained friends when I went away to university, and I was happy for her when she got married. I work for a tech company now. Not one of the FANG companies, but they still provide some really cool stuff for their employees. Our cafeteria is free and open 24 hours a day. We can eat all of our meals there if we want to. They have a nutritionist that makes sure the meals are tasty and healthy. I take advantage of the food on a fairly regular basis, But I still keep food at my apartment to make myself meals I learned from my dad. And I keep Fruit Loops, which the cafeteria does not stock. 5 weeks ago, Madison left her husband and asked if she could stay with me while she figured things out. I agreed since I have a spare room and we're friends. I thought it was a more temporary thing. She has a job, and I think she has access to a joint account with her husband. I thought she would be here for a couple of weeks, then go to her folks or settle her problems with her husband. Instead, she hasn't left my house other than to work. She ate all of my food in the fridge and the pantry. I went grocery shopping once so far, but she ate everything again and didn't even offer to replace it. I asked her when she was going to be moving on, but she says she doesn't know. I asked her for some money for groceries, and she said she hasn't been paid. It's been 5 weeks. I don't think anyone holds back wages that long. So last week, instead of going to Whole Foods, I just started eating all of my meals either at work or at a restaurant on the way home. She asked me when I was going shopping, but I said I was too busy with work. She offered to go shopping for us if I gave her the money. I said I was too busy to cook food at home. She's saying that I'm a jerk for trying to use food to control her or too cheap to help her out. She thinks I'm trying to be with her. I'm already not charging her rent. She's still beautiful, but I'm seeing a side of her that I've never seen before. Not the jerk. I know this is not an advice sub, but you need to get her out of your house. This has the potential to go sideways really badly. Maybe I'm just a pessimist, but it sounds like she thinks you are a better meal ticket, both figuratively and literally, than her husband. I hope I'm wrong. I don't see why you aren't communicating this with her. I have no romantic interest in you. I'm not going to support you financially other than providing a temporary place to stay. It's time for you to find another place to stay. You have until this date to move out. For the food thing, not the jerk. Am I the jerk for blowing up on my husband over chicken Alfredo? I, 38 female, am married to my husband, 42 male, and we've been together since our early 20s, and we have 3 kids who are all under the age of 10. He's a mechanic and works anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week, while I work as a hostess 3 days a week at a restaurant while the kids are at school. I do the majority of the housework and childcare, and I don't mind, as I understand he has a hard job and he works a lot. We get the kids on the bus every morning because he leaves for work about 10 minutes afterward. All I ask of him is to do his laundry, as his clothes are covered in oil and grime and need to go in by themselves, and pick up after himself because the kids destroy the house enough. A couple times a week, he'll help with dinner and clean up at the end of the day as well. Over the last 2 months, he's completely stopped helping. He dumps his clothes on the laundry room floor, his half of the bedroom is a mess, he leaves cans and wrappers all over the living room, and he's even stopped getting the kids up, which has upset them as they love their mornings with Dad. He's also been coming home hours later than usual. I've been letting it slide as he seems very stressed out, but a few days ago, he snapped at me for letting his clothes go unwashed. I reminded him that he always did his own laundry, and he hadn't asked me to do it. I've been doing it, I just hadn't gotten to it yet. He just grumbled and went to go watch TV. Last night, I made chicken Alfredo. We have it about once a week because the kids love it and no one's ever complained. Well, he complained and moaned through the whole dinner. Said that since I'm not taking care of the house, I should at least put a good meal on the table. That I've just been letting the whole family go to heck and I should be ashamed of myself for treating him and his kids like that. He called me a bad wife and a mother in front of our kids. I told the kids to go to their rooms and I snapped. I screamed at him about how much I do for the household, that if it wasn't for me, the place would be trashed, and he has no right to treat me like this over chicken Alfredo. We went back and forth for a while before he left, and I have no idea where he went, and he isn't answering my calls or texts. I feel bad now, as I shouldn't have reacted like that, especially because I know he's just stressed from work, but it all just kind of built up and came out at once. I just want to know if I was wrong for freaking out on him like that. Update. I called my husband for the 100th time because he still hadn't come home and the kids wanted to know where he was, and a woman answered. I didn't recognize her voice, and he doesn't have a sister. I asked her to put me on the phone with my husband, and she asked who I was. I said I was his wife, and she laughed into the phone and told me he was busy. We went back and forth, with her laughing at me the whole time before telling me she'll send him home soon and hanging up. It's now the next morning and he's still not home. I really didn't think he was cheating. I had really hoped this was just a rough patch, but it looks like most of you were right. I'm heartbroken and a little in shock and not really sure what to do right now. My brother said I should come stay with him, and I might, or maybe just bring the kids so they don't have to see us fight. I might update again, I might not, but I'm sure you all know where this is heading anyway. Not the jerk, OP. I sincerely hope I'm mistaken, but your husband may be having an affair and setting you up to be the bad wife and mother to justify his behavior. That's what happened to me. OP, I'm sorry. Something is awry and it's not you. Couples counseling now, but keep a watch on your money and protect your kids. Sounds like your husband is checking out. Not the jerk. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.